Hi, this is Stella Stocker, and you're listening to Monday Morning Critic podcast.
Perfect. So where do we start here? I'm looking at this really established, accomplished life you have. So studying you and researching you, I was thinking like the amount of sacrifice, because I've had cinematographers on the podcast, I've had composers, I've had people that are all in different aspects of creating these wonderful things we love called movies and television. And I feel like the ones that have gotten the furthest or the ones that shine the brightest require an abnormal amount of sacrifice and putting all of yourself into your work. Do you feel that, I mean, I'm speaking, just professionally when it comes to this field. Mm-hmm. Do you find that your sacrifice has been that much? Do you feel like you've really put a lot of yourself into it where, there's things I'm sure you'd love to do, but you know what? You're all in on your career.
Mm-hmm. I guess as an actor, you're always sort of a bit worried to miss out on a casting. So you think twice about booking a holiday or going away. You just want to be able to do the casting. Now, through Corona, it's become a bit different because we've become so adept at doing self-tapes, which also freed us up to leave the country and go somewhere else. You just need your phone, you need a little tripod, find a quiet space with a neutral background, and you're good to go. I have definitely sacrificed on, family stuff to be able to work. And then sometimes annoyingly nothing happened, and you would just do that. But yeah, it's definitely happened.
And that certainly includes the path early on, right? We'll get to your schooling and so forth, because it really requires a lot of you. I do have to tell you, and I'm going to bounce a back and forth here a little bit. You do have a resemblance to Michelle Monaghan. Have you been told that before?
Not Michelle Monaghan, no.
Who do you get? Because, I mean, obviously you're your own actor. You're clearly a very established, talented actor. But I'm weird like that. I look at people on the street and I'm like, that person looks like Brad Pitt or that person looks like Steven Spielberg. Like, I'm all over the place. Who do you get a lot, Stella?
I have got Cate Blanchett before.
Oh, not a bad one to be compared to. Not
a bad one at all.
Yeah.
Audrey Hepburn occasionally. So.
Oh, why can't I get compliments like that? I get like Shrek. I wish I get like Brad Pitt or So I did one before we go into acting and this wonderful career you've assembled. How about some non-acting jobs that you've had over the course of your life? That I always find it interesting what actors say to this question, because it's funny what people take out of the jobs that you would think never apply to acting, and they manage to pull something that they can use or they learned. How about you, Stella?
So I've babysat. I was a flight attendant. I worked in a bookstore, in a few restaurants, and I've done translation work. I think, that's about it. I've done
flight attendant would be a job, because I'm scared to death of flying. I went 20 years without flying. Is that something that bothers you in the least bit?
Flying?
Yeah.
I'm not terribly fond of it. So there are moments when it starts to rattle and you get into bad weather, that I have to tell myself that these airplanes have been tested under much worse circumstances. And I don't love it. I love that you can get to places. I don't love flying. And obviously as a flight attendant, that's, you're on the plane constantly. You just get used to it.
Anything you've pulled for those jobs? So I imagine, like babysitting would be patience, right? You'd have to have a level of patience. Anything that you've taken out of those jobs that you can apply? I mean, not directly or daily, but maybe in an indirect way, maybe an by the way kind of sort of way.
Patience and attentiveness, understanding what someone is trying to say to you, especially as a flight attendant.
Yeah,
reading people, I suppose.
Oh, yeah. That's perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. But you know what? It's even more amazing is your life growing up, right? Because I am bilingual. You are trilingual. Is that fair? English,
German, English, and French. Not as good as I would like it to be, but every time I am with French speakers, it gets better again. So that's sort of the language I'm still working on.
And German, we're going to get to The Good Liar, but you are amazing in The Good Liar. Like, I feel like, how is this movie not more spoken about? We saw it. We loved it when it first came out. Like, we loved it. Like, it was so good. Mm-hmm. What a cast there, too.
Amazing cast, amazing director, Bill Condon. Wonderful director. I felt so guided, and he's calm, he's very supportive, he's wonderful, and working with him was a treat. I do it in a heartbeat again.
Still, and it's one of those things where I feel like, when I hear actors talk about directors, it's always they always mention the ones that let actors be themselves, are open to ideas, are very comforting. I never hear about the ones that are like, this is how I want it, this is how it goes, the ones that have no room for flexibility, that are not their thought process is not open ended. They have their own. They're set in their ways. I feel like that's the worst way to go about it. Bill sounds like he's the opposite of that.
He is the opposite.
Yeah,
He is.
and it creates a great product.
And he's such a gentle man. He's honest. There's nothing bad I can say about Bill. It's all just wonderful. Honestly, working with him again would be a dream of mine, really, because it was such an incredible experience.
Yeah, and I was connecting the dots earlier, and I was like, okay, so he did the Twilight movies, at least the first two, and then there's a connection with Robert Pattinson and you, but that's me with too much time on my hands. Anyways, but your life early on is pretty amazing, right? You grew up and share as much as you'd like, share nothing. It's all up to you. Germany, France, and Congo. I've had actors that have traveled the world, have traveled. First off, why so much traveling? And two, how did you feel traveling that much as growing up? Whatever you want to say to that, Stella, I would appreciate.
So I have two older sisters, a younger sister and a younger brother. So for us traveling, it was always, I was traveling in my little tribe. It wasn't an only child going with my parents and then having to, build a whole new group. I had my group always.
Gotcha.
It was that tribe. And my parents were just they just loved doing new things and taking us along. So when my dad decided to go to the Congo, it's a teaching hospital there. It's a former Canadian mission station. It's still a mission station, and they were founded in 1920. And then Americans joined, and then they gave it to the local church. It's a massive teaching hospital. And my mum was pregnant with my brother when we left. And so it was the most amazing childhood you could possibly imagine. Completely free. We would run around barefoot all day, just, exploring and swimming in the ponds and the river and, playing with the local kids. There's not a day that goes by without me thinking about, that time of my life in some way. So I was there from 6 to almost 11.
Wow. Wow. And your parents sound like amazing people. You just mentioned what your dad was doing. My gosh, like saints on earth, if there ever is such a thing. My God.
Well, they were. It's definitely. My dad. When you get older yourself, you realize what your parents have done at a similar age. So when my dad went there, not only did he have 5 kids, and my mum, she homeschooled us. But he was 36 and he ran the hospital. He taught everybody and he did all the operations. And so he was a general surgeon then. He's a plastic surgeon now. And, I look back in awe because I think, wow, this is something I just couldn't imagine. Wow. And I'm so grateful that they did that, gave us a childhood like no other.
And one of my favorite things about interviews is I was not expecting that answer. I was expecting what you said, an only child that was going from place to place because mom or dad was searching for work, right? So that's what I never expected what you just said. What a wonderful, nurturing family that is. My gosh. That in itself, I feel like that in itself could be its own movie, right? Your experiences growing up for that time span. Did you learn a lot from your parents, mom and dad?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They're such an amazing team. They, later in life, my mum became my dad's assistant when he had his own practice. So they would do everything together. The way my mum just loved being a mother, she was an amazing mum to us 5 kids, and she never felt like she was missing out on a career. To her, being a mum was incredibly fulfilling. And yeah, just seeing my dad doing his thing and in the hospital, I was always very proud, when I saw my dad walking around in his scrubs. And once we were allowed to watch one of his operations. And so we all had our scrubs on. It was my 2 older sisters and me. I was about 9 or 10. And then it was very interesting. When you grow up with a surgeon father, all of these, it's not like weird or icky. operations and
Sure.
human flesh and blood. It's just normal. And I've learned a lot from my parents. I mean, just the way there were no hurdles. You'd always find a solution, and
You know,
sort of keeping the family together.
forget private school, forget any type of school. You had the best education there was. I mean, what you just told me. I mean, can you imagine kids getting a chance to watch their dad in action like that? That's invaluable. Like that's something you're clearly never going to forget. Like, and where else would you find something like that? No high-priced university or prep school. I mean, that's one heck of a way to grow up, Stella.
Yeah, definitely is. And being part of the so there were always about a few doctors there, but then most of the people working there were locals. So we went to the local children's choir, my sister and we still sing the songs today. And we'd go to the local church, and you haven't been to a church service until you've been to a Congolese church service. It's
Yes.
easily 3 hours long, with about 2 hours of a sermon, and it's really optimistic. It's wild. It's dancing. It's incredible.
Well, not only learning from your wonderful family, but I would imagine, I mean, just the cultures Germany, Congo, France. I would imagine you learned about other cultures and other people, which I think is invaluable to where you are today. I mean, not to sound repetitive, but I feel like, boy, did you have the best education there was growing up. Just being there and you did it with your family, which when I look
Mm.
back, boy, I'm envious. I mean, I love my dad, my mom. I love my sister. I love my family. But I see where you're coming from, and I can imagine you must have such pride and happiness in your heart.
Oh, yeah, my family is to this day the most important, hub. And there's not a day goes by without me talking to some of my siblings or my parents. And wherever I went in the world to study or to work, there's always that connection. There's always touching base with the family, for sure. And we always try to get together for Christmas. I mean, now we're about 19 people. My sisters are all married and my brother and have kids. So it's a big tribe when we come together, and it's wonderful. I love it.
What do they think of their sister or daughter, and what you've accomplished? What is your family's take on that?
They've always been very supportive.
That's
And
awesome.
I'm the only actress in the family, so everybody has a normal job, I would call it. And there's always been support from start to finish. So I've always felt like my sister said, if you don't get work, you can live with me. Or the other sister said, I'll pay for your telephone bill for the next year. Or, let me take you out shopping. And it was always incredibly supportive.
Wow, that's phenomenal to hear. And so, how difficult? I mean, because we brought up the Good Liar earlier, and your German is impeccable. I mean, not that I'm a judge of German, but I mean, my gosh, I would never have guessed it was not your first language, right? I never would have guessed that.
Well,
How do you?
it is my first language too. So my parents are German. So
Oh, okay.
so it is. I grew up speaking English and German.
So so when I was raised by my Polish grandmother, all she spoke to me was in Polish. That's how I learned Polish, right? I could speak Polish fluently.
Amazing.
So is that the same thing in your house? Were they going back and forth with German, and you were picking up on that, or was it just kind of like a mixture of English and German?
I would say mostly German at home and then English outside.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So that makes
that's
sense.
most.
How about the French? I know you said you're not where you'd like to be, but still, the fact that you can speak three languages, I would imagine you could have a conversation in French. Like I said, maybe not where you want, but how do you pick up that ability? Because I think kids throughout the world, it should be mandatory. Bilingual, learn a second, even a third language. How do you pick up French, Stella?
So it was Belgian Congo.
Okay,
So it was still French speaking. To this
gotcha.
day, it's French speaking. And so everything that wasn't connected to the American and Canadian side, the locals, that was French, or the local language, which was Kituba, which we also learned. But unfortunately, I forgot most of it because, if a language has to be alive, you have to speak it. And unfortunately, we didn't keep this up, as children when we came back. So I can say a few things, a few sentences, but that
And
I've lost.
It's like a musical instrument. If you forget, if you don't
Mhm.
keep using it, you kind of lose that. That's a great point. So I'm not going to ask you why you decided to become an actor, because I feel like it's a common question, and I think I know the answer. But I will ask you this: is there a movie or an actor that inspired you to kind of get to the point where you're like, I love this. I've got to do this. I've got to do it.
Yes, it's Gone with the Wind.
Classic, classic.
Gone with the Wind. I've seen it many, many times, and Scarlett O'Hara loved it, and then so that inspired me first, but I didn't think, oh, this could be a career. And then when Sense and Sensibility came out, my aunt gave me a VHS, and I watched it a good 50 times until I knew the whole film by heart, and I would just walk around in the house. And I bought this costume in a car boot sale, and it was like a proper costume, and I would walk around in the house and just do the dialogue. So
Yeah,
this is when I realized, oh, I think I'd love to do this. But I didn't have anybody in my family who was an actor, or even in my wider family, or friends with my parents' friends. There was just nobody there. So actually thinking, could this be a profession, came much later, when I was about
yeah.
18.
Yeah, see, I'm not as talented as you are, but if I had a fraction of it, I mean, Shawshank has. I mean, that movie changed my life. I mean, I feel like movies are life changing, and the fact that this sets you on your way. I love hearing these stories. Stella, talk about university mentors along the way, how that assisted in your growth as an actor, because I think that's really important.
Yeah. So I went to the University of Hull, and they have a very, very good drama department with their own theatre and workshops for creating the set pieces and lighting design and a big costume department. And the good thing was that you had to audition for the parts. You weren't just given parts. You had to audition. If you were lucky, you got a part. If not, you could
Right.
think about whether you were going to do set design or costume. So whenever I didn't get a part, I would do costume or makeup. And when I did get a part, it was a huge buzz, and really exciting to go through the rehearsal process, to get to know how to move and how to move your body in the space and how to use your voice. So that was a great training up there for sure.
Can you recall a single person? I mean, I bet you it was more of a group effort, but can you recall a single person that really assisted you, or like a mentor, or somebody that was, or do you feel like it's kind of maybe a collective bunch of people?
I think it's a collective.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So I've had quite a few good teachers. There wasn't one teacher who, opened my eyes to something. It was just a very good group effort.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And when I'm looking at your filmography, and I'm looking at a lot of the things you've done, the voiceover work is really impressive, because that's something you won't find on IMDb. I went to your website, which is great, by the way. It's also on the screen for those watching or listening. But, it's you do have like a narrator's voice. It's a great voice, and that's something that, like, when I love documentaries. I think that's I don't feel like I hear enough. I don't hear many females doing narration. It tends to be a man's kind of field,
Mhm.
which I mean, maybe I'm just not looking at it correctly, but you certainly could do anything when it comes to narration, documentary. I would love to hear it, but the companies that have hired you to do their work is pretty impressive, Stella.
I have to say, going into voiceover was absolutely amazing for me, because I could, for the first time, I wasn't waiting for someone to give me an audition or, give me something. I could just go out there, audition for work, and then landed my first job. I've self-taught, got a microphone, built a little studio,
Wow.
and then just learned as I went along. Joined a group called Kickstarter, um, voice Kickstarter, where you just talk to other voiceover artists, and then you just do it. You just do it because that's the way you learn how to do it, and then learned how to edit. And after about 3 years, I was a pro, and now I've been doing it for about 5 years, and it's still something I absolutely love doing, and I think I will always do, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, the companies. I mean, I think I saw Toyota. I mean, I didn't want to buy a new car, but I watched your Mazda commercial. Now I want to buy a Mazda. So that's how effective your voice is. It's great work. And I was also on your resume looking at some of the things that you're able to do. I was surprised to see some judo, some Krav Maga, if I'm saying that correctly. I know, I get it. I'm not expecting Bruce Lee type talent, but the variety of things that you're capable of is pretty impressive.
I just enjoy trying new things and then getting to do it to a level where if a casting director said, show me a move, I could do it. Yeah. It's just fun, to broaden your horizon when it comes to these things, for sure.
And you kind of have to, as an actor, become a jack of all trades, right? Because you don't want to be able to, the director says, well, can you do this? And it's like, well, no, I can't. But like, you have such a great eclectic variety of what you can do. I mean, that can only help you going into future projects. You had a quote, and you, I think it was an interview, maybe the interview was like a year old, and you said, I like the unpredictability of, finding out what role I'm going to be next. To me, as an actor, if I was an actor, it would drive me nuts not having that stability, right? Like, okay, like you've done some really great projects, and then like, where's the next one coming from? You think the opposite. You're like, well, I can't wait for what my next adventure is going to bring. Do I have that right, Stella?
Yes, I do. I love that it's unpredictable. I love that, tomorrow my agent could call me and say, this person wants to see you for the role of whatever, and then you do the casting and then you get booked. And it's just, I love the unpredictability of this.
What would you consider your first major role? Not me. Let me change that. The first role where you're like, you know what? I've got a future in this. It could be a commercial. Maybe it's a play. Maybe it's something in theater. What's the first moment where you said, you know what? I think I'm going to do this. Maybe it's when you watch Sense and Sensibility on VHS. I don't know. But what would you classify it as?
I think it was actually Sense and Sensibility.
See?
It was that. And then everything that came afterwards, little short films, commercials, everything just built from there.
Yeah.
Because I was already, my mind was already set on that.
And you're almost like Daniel Day-Lewis, because after you saw Sense and Sensibility, you did not come out of character. Like, you were in character, right? You said you were walking around, like, when Daniel Day-Lewis was Lincoln. I mean, he was Lincoln, like, I think after the film was made, he was going into convenience stores with a top hat. Like, he brought it to the next level.
He is next level for sure.
Yeah. What's your take on that, Stella? Like, so there are characters that just immerse themselves in, I mean, I'm not going to say it's unhealthy because he's one of the best actors ever. I mean, I can't comment on that part of it. To me, it seems a tad bit extreme. But if that's where he achieves where he's comfortable, then who are we to complain? Who am I to complain? Because he's one of our best. What's your take on that? Immersing yourself. Is there a limit? Is it too much to,
Yeah, I think, whatever works for you.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
Whatever works for you, just make sure it doesn't impact on anyone else hardcore. Me personally, I'm quite in and out, on a set.
Yeah.
I'm doing the character when it says action, and then, I'm myself in between. I do like to stay in a zone of being concentrated, not going away chatting and sort of staying there, but not in character.
Yeah. Hearing you speak, and I've said this story many times before, but I've had actors that have been on Christopher Nolan sets, and he has like a no cell phone policy. And I'm thinking to myself as I'm here listening to you speak, like, who would be around an actor like, and you've been around some great ones, which we're about to get into, but who would be on a Christopher Nolan set and not trying to absorb everything he says, instead being on your cell phone? I don't get it. Like, I would, if I was an actor and Christopher Nolan is there, that's beyond a masterclass. That's the equivalent of what you went through as growing up, right? Like, you're all in. Like, if I was on that set, I would want to absorb everything he was saying. But I don't know. I get being all in. I don't get tuning out for actors. Some people can kind of come in and then just forget about it. Stella, I don't get that.
I love being on set, and I leave my phone in the trailer, and I watch. I watch the crew, the directing, wherever I can. I try to be there and observe. That's
Yeah, that's the best way to go about it. And there's three movies here I want to talk about quickly. Fury, a wonderful movie. Again, a very very underrated movie. Very popular on IMDb. I have to say that. Anything you wanted to say about Fury, David A, or anything you wanted to throw out there? I'd love to hear about Fury.
So, Fury was my first big thing.
Yeah.
And I was terribly excited that I landed the part. And David Ayer is he's intense, and he really knows what he wants. And it was really exciting. I got there for my day of shooting, and I was supposed to play a mum of a little boy that gets almost run over by the tank. But in the end, and this is the painful reality of an actor when you start out, the scene was cut because they were worried. And they were worried about the tank. And I was like, no, that's fine. I can do it. I'm not scared of the tank. I can run in front of it. But they basically decided that's it. So I ended up not being in it. Do you know the scene in Friends where Joey has this part in a crime series? And then he says to his friends, do you see that body bag? I'm in it. And
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And you're so excited that you land your first gig. But the problem with these small parts is that's the first thing that's going to go if it's not necessary to the plot.
Right. But and I know you weren't, you don't end up in the final product, but you do end up in the credits. You do end up, so there are positives to that still. Plus your experiences off camera, right?
Oh yeah, it was an amazing day. I loved it. The first AD, first assistant director, I worked with twice more later in life.
Wow!
And he remembered me from that day, and just seeing how it was done, it was incredibly exciting. So yeah, that day was worth it either way. It was really.
And we talked Good Liar earlier. I don't know if your paths cross because I think they're different scenes because you're with the younger version of the Ian McKellen character, but Helen Mirren, Ian McKellen in The Good Liar, Frau Schroeder. Am I saying that Schroeder or is it Frau
Schroeder?
Schroeder. Okay, yeah. It's again. I'm not going to beat a dead horse here, but what a phenomenal movie. And I know you said you're always learning on set. Did you get a chance to cross with either of them or somebody that maybe you admire that I didn't mention?
Yeah, I met them both because we had a cast read through.
Oh, nice.
We had a big read through with, I think everybody was there. And Jim Carter, who is, Downton Abbey's butler.
Yep. And, great actor.
I absolutely love him. And he was so sweet at the premiere. He sort of took me under his wing and was like, I'll, because that was my first big premiere, and he was just so sweet. And Ian McKellen, wonderful. We had a quick chat, and he said, "Oh, I'm so sorry we don't get to act together." I was like, not as sorry as I am. And Helen Mirren, also just amazing to watch, even just in a read through,
I can't even imagine what that read through is like for you. Somebody who loves acting the way you do, and like you're sitting in a room with Helen and Ian and reading. Like it's like I guess it would be like I don't know. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Like, even from a learning point of view, and I know you're professional and you're not in awe the whole. But you have to be like, my gosh, this is amazing.
Oh, it was. There were moments where I thought this is great. And I'm a part of this, and I've been cast to be here. So, yeah, it was an incredible day, and I was so glad that Bill made. It was so important to him to have us all together this one day, and do this read through. That was really
part of what makes him great. We were talking early on. This is part of it, like the togetherness, the family-like atmosphere he kind of creates. Mm-hmm. It sounds like so. Yeah, what a wonderful director. What a wonderful film. For those listening, The Good Liar, great movie. I wanted to end talking about the Batman. I want to ask you two quick questions. One, how did you, and this is interesting how they portrayed your character, because you're never truly, well, you're in the movie, but you're not like, it's not like you're performing like The Good Liar, right? You're doing a wonderful, they're using past video footage, or they're using, like, so for example, I'll put this up on the screen. They're using, photographs, okay? Mm-hmm. How did you get the role? First, let me ask you this. How did you get the role? And I'll work my way to the second thing I was building up to.
So I got the casting and went to Lucy Bevan, a wonderful casting director I absolutely adore. And I didn't know what it was for. and I didn't read, it was a completely different scene, and it was a mother talking to her child, and did that, and then went away, and then heard I got the part, and then found out what it was. And I was like, oh, this is incredibly exciting. It's Martha Wayne, and this Batman is such a big thing. And I remember watching Michael Keaton's Batman, which I loved.
Yes.
And I also have to say, out of all the superheroes, I like him the best because he's actually human. Has no superpowers.
Right.
So everything that he does is, it's amazing, gadgets and stuff, but he has no superpowers, and I like that about it. And it's quite gritty. So yeah, when I got that, I was very excited. And then I went to the studios, and I was allowed to read only my scene, so everything else was blacked out, and someone was sitting there while I was reading the scene, and then I had to hand it back, and it was very secretive. And then we had a day of shooting where we shot the scene where Thomas Wayne gives his political speech.
Yep.
And then we did 2 days of photographs, so which was wonderful. And the director, Matt Reeves, I really enjoyed working with. Very
He's
calm,
great.
Very precise, knows what he wants, and lovely director.
And that's not usual, right? Because the acting part is, but the photographs, I mean, I don't know if you knew what they were putting together there, but that's different, right? To shoot photographs on a movie like that?
Yeah, it was very different. On one hand, it felt like we were doing scenes, but then obviously it was photographs, and Matt was there, all along in all the photographs we took. And
Right.
and there's a scene a photograph where Martha is in an asylum when she's
Yes.
younger. And originally they wanted to use a different actress. And I said to Matt, I'm like, I can do this. Take the makeup off. I can do it. I'm going to look young enough. Trust me. And he did. So I got to do those as well.
Good. He made a good choice. Yeah. And when you see, so the traditional, we talk about the Batman, the traditional way to portray Martha Wayne, which is an iconic character, right? It's always kind of this, and it's not a bad thing, but we see it, in the Dark Knight and other Batman movies where it's her and Thomas, they're walking out of a theater or they're walking down a sidewalk, they're mugged, they're killed, and hence the birth of Batman, essentially. Did you know Matt's vision for how he wanted to do this by kind of showing that, Martha's mother killed her father and then killed herself, and then it had a long impact on Martha, who was in and out of asylums? Did you know that was his vision?
Yes, I knew he wanted to show a different side, and I knew he wanted to show the good relationship between Bruce and his parents. So I knew it was a different angle, and I didn't know about the asylum. So I thought, oh, that's very intriguing because that has such an impact on her as a person.
Right. And it's funny that you mean this, because you talked earlier about the Batman and what he is like. He doesn't have superpowers, and doesn't that almost, and this is kind of a nerdy question, but doesn't that almost add a little bit more legitimacy, Stella, in regards that Superman is immortal, basically. He can, not that his good deeds are not not valued, they are, but Batman tends to put more on the line because his consequences could result in the ultimate downfall. He risks death oftentimes, right? So that almost adds more credence to the value of a man who is exactly that, a man, right?
Yeah, I agree. It adds weight, and seriousness to it. I think grit, because he does put himself out there in a way that he doesn't have to. It's a choice.
Yes. Did you realize the magnitude of it when this is out? What's your reaction? Because this is the movie that everybody's been talking about for the last year, maybe more. How do you digest that? How do you absorb that? Is that kind of difficult to process? Because again, Martha Wayne is an iconic character. The way Matt did it, I think, is phenomenal. The way he portrayed you, and just makes for a really interesting story. Can you process the magnitude of this project? Is it even after?
I have to say, so because it was quite some time ago when I did my stuff, it was 2019, and then there was COVID and there was a big break. So I was a bit removed from the magnitude of this. Then I did see, I saw the posters everywhere. and the buzz on the internet. So yeah, I was aware that it's a big thing, and people have been waiting for it and are very excited about it. And I think Batman fans are very, they have very strong opinions, and so I knew it was going to be a big thing.
Yeah, and I love going to the theaters because I love the reaction at the end when they close the credits and the people just go nuts, like they're
Yeah,
clapping and they just love it. Did you see it opening night, or did you see it? How did you have you seen the final product?
I haven't seen it yet, so I
Wow.
still have to see it. Yes.
Yes.
I traveled quite a bit when it came out, so I wasn't around, but I will definitely watch it very soon. So
Do you find that there's a lot of people that kind of reach out to you saying, "Hey, you were great," or "Hey," outside of family, maybe friends too? That do you find that when you hear that, it's almost reassuring and values what the work you put into a project?
mm, um, yes, I mean, a lot of people have said, "Oh, I wish I'd seen you more. Your part had been bigger, or just more of a scene." But that wasn't the way it was meant to be. That wasn't Matt's vision. So someone said maybe you'll be in a prequel or something. I was like, who knows? And
That
yeah, but it was people would just really enjoy the film, so it was nice to hear that.
Two last questions for you. Thank you for all this time. You're such a kind person, Stella.
Oh,
Thank you. The one thing I love is the way they tied in your character's maiden name being Arkham, which is the asylum that's home to many of Batman's foes. It's just a wonderful way of tying that in. You mentioned Michael Keaton. Who's your favorite Batman? Is it him?
yes, it is Michael Keaton.
And what did you think of the Christopher Nolan Batman? To me, those are the three that the power of those his images. Oof,
Mhm. I loved them, especially the one with Ra's al Ghul, because I think that had
good one.
such a the way he said, his reasoning for why he wants to destroy the world kind of made sense. It wasn't just
Yeah.
a baddie who's trying to kill people. He had a purpose with it, and I really liked that. And obviously the one with Heath Ledger, um,
Dark Knight. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
that was mind blowing. I mean, Heath Ledger was just haunting.
And still, you know what I love about those movies is that I feel like the earlier other superhero movies, they kind of, I don't want to say cartoonish, that minimalizes these great movies, but you never get a sense that it's reality with the Christopher Nolan movies with Matt Reeves, the Batman. You get an idea that, my God, this is real. Like you feel that. Like that's a tough thing to achieve. I think Matt did it. Matt
Mm,
achieved it. Christopher Nolan achieved it. It's a very
yeah.
difficult thing to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh,
You know,
absolutely. I totally agree with you. And yes, they both did for sure.
Stella, what is around the corner for you? Future projects? Anything you wanted to throw out there? I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. So on the 29th of April, Memory is going to come out. It's a Liam Neeson thriller,
Oh,
and
nice.
he plays an assassin with memory loss. And then I am going to be shooting a film called, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that. So I'm going to shoot a film in Prague in June for 3 weeks, which I'm really looking forward to. And then at some point later this year, there's going to be a film called Marlowe, which I've got a small part in. So yeah, things shooting and things being released. So a good
Nothing
year.
wrong with that. So let me ask
No,
you about Memory. This is Memory. Where does that drop? Is that a theater drop? Is that a Netflix drop? Where?
it will drop. So in the US, it will drop in the theaters. I think
Okay.
they've got 2,000 theaters where it's going to drop. And then in Europe and the UK, I don't know yet. We will
Okay.
see if that gets a streaming drop or if it does go to the theater. I mean, I love the cinema, so I always want films to end up in cinema first, but we shall see.
Stella, I got to say, it's been a pleasure, and thank you for your kindness and your honesty. This has just been a wonderful interview, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.